Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Warships, which has recently gone into open beta, which means that you and absolutely everyone can come out and try this fantastic ship combat experience. I've managed to get on the high seas a few times in the last few weeks, and I'm having some fairly okay results, but I've still got a lot left to learn. This video is going to document everything that's new since my last video, which was during the opening of the closed beta, before highlighting some of my favorite gameplay in the last 2 weeks, and maybe you can pick up a few tips and tricks. So firstly, a new account level has been added into the game. I highlighted levels 1 through to 6 in my last video, and there are 2 new levels for you to achieve. You can get level 7, which gives you signals. Signals are flags that you can put up on your ship, as we can see at the top here. These 2 signals are Equal Speed Charlie London and Juliet Charlie. There are currently 10 signals in the game, which can provide you with a huge advantage over your opponents if you choose to use them. Hotel Yankee, for example, decreases the amount of ramming damage you receive and increases the amount of ramming damage you cause to your enemy by 50%. Juliet Yankee Bizzo 2 reduces the flooding recovery time by 20%. That'll be fantastic on a battleship if you do get hit by torpedoes a lot. Juliet Charlie reduces the chance of your magazine detonating by 100%. So you can no longer get ammo wrecked if you choose to use this signal. Indio Brava Terra 3 reduces the cost of your ship's post-battle repair by 5%. Zulu, 20% more credits in battle. Sierra Mike increases the maximum speed of your ship, which I think is fantastic for destroyers. India Yankee reduces the time it takes to extinguish fires, which is fantastic for battleships, and also useful for cruisers when you do take a bit of punishment. Equal Speed Charlie London is a dream if you want to level up your account fast. This will increase the amount of experience that you earn in a single battle by 50%. Mike Yankee Soxasix is a dream for battleships that like to play aggressively. It increases your secondary battery maximum fire range by 5% and also increases its accuracy and reduces its loading time by 5%. And finally, there is India Delta, which increases the recovery speed of your repair party consumable on your battleships by 20%. Now you might be wondering, well, how do I get these signals? They do sound like a massive advantage. And to get these signals, you have to complete epic achievements. For example, to get 10 lots of Sierra Mike, you have to achieve Double Strike. And if we look in the achievements section, it tells you what you have to do to get Double Strike: destroy 2 enemy vehicles within 10 seconds of each other. And you can get 10 new signals every 24 hours. Which means that if you're the kind of player that doesn't play in huge blocks of time, but you like to play a little bit every day, then World of Warships has some lovely rewards to speed up your account progress, both with regards to credits, experience, and also your battle capabilities. There is also a new rank 8, Camouflage. Camouflages make your ships look absolutely sweet, as we can see here on my Omaha. To be able to put them on, you go to the exterior tab, hit the camouflage button, and then choose whether you want to have -3% to your detectability, which is very nice for destroyers, or you can choose Type 2, which makes the enemy ships less accurate when they target you and lock onto you. Now these consumables will take about maybe 15% of your profit away, but if you're willing to sacrifice that, then that 4% less accuracy that the enemy has could be your advantage. Another fantastic feature they've introduced in the open beta is the fact that your premium time is linked between your accounts. Wargaming, you're getting a massive thumbs up from me for this. You guys very easily could have been greedy and forced players to spend their premium time on World of Warships and World of Tanks, but by linking them together, you are giving a gift to the players so we can switch between World of Warships and play World of Tanks when we feel like it and not feeling like we're being penalized. And so if you're a keen World of Tanks player who does have a premium account, then you've got that to look forward to when you try out World of Warships. One of my favorite aspects of the game currently are the daily missions that you receive. Every 24 hours, you will get a new mission. Some of them reward credits. For example, here, if I land 2 torpedo hits in a single battle, it's going to give me 20,000 credits. Or if I destroy 4 enemy aircraft in a single battle, I'm going to get 35,000 credits. But also, it does give you free experience. If I destroy 20 enemy aircraft, I'm going to get 500 free experience that I can spend on whatever I want, and I especially recommend that for unlocking new modules on ships so you don't have to play them stock. And so again, if you are a daily player of Wargaming products, then this is a great way for you to accelerate your progress without having to spend a long time grinding in the game. Apart from that, since my last video, there are a whole new host of Japanese carriers that you can try out. And if you've been lusting after American battleships, then your wait is over. They are now in the game. Ending with the monstrous Montana, which has 12 406mm main guns that can fire up to 23.6 kilometers without any additional modules. Also in the open beta, the commander skills have been massively developed. They are now more powerful than ever. For example, if you can get as far as air supremacy, you get an extra fighter and an extra bomber in your carriers. That is simply massive, as all of you carrier players out there must know. And if you play destroyers and get very frustrated every time your steering or your engine gets knocked out, then maybe Last Stand will be the commander skill for you. This enables your ship to remain mobile even if your steering or your engine are critically damaged. Or maybe like me, you like to focus on improving your guns. Then basic firing training will increase your rate of fire by 10%. Aiming expert will increase your turret rotation by 2.5 degrees. Advanced firing training will increase the range of guns up to a caliber of 155mm by 20%, allowing you to outrange, outmaneuver, and outsnipe your opponents. This really is your opportunity to customize your ship in a way so that you can outplay your opponents. And if you're willing to invest the time to get to some of the higher skills, these can be absolutely game-changing for you. And so really, World of Warships has never been in a better position. There's something for everyone in the game, and Wargaming have indicated that they do not plan to reset the progress at all. And so that's why I've invested the time and already got my Omaha fully upgraded, and I want to work my way towards the Cleveland, which I am thoroughly looking forward to. That is my goal at the moment. And from there on, I'm just going to play it by ear. Finally, just before I get stuck into some gameplay, I'd like to show you some of the upgrades that are available on the ships and how they can be absolutely game-changing. Here is the Arkansas Beta, which was the reward for anyone who played, I think, 50 or 100 games while World of Warships was in closed beta. It is pretty much the same as the regular Wyoming, the Tier 4 American battleship. The reason why I'm showing you this, however, is because it has got some insane upgrade potential. Let me just hide my face cam momentarily because it will block the view for you. The third upgrade slot costs 3 million credits. That's enough to buy 2 Tier 5 ships, for goodness sake. But they do provide you with a huge advantage. For example, Main Battery Modification 3 reduces the main battery loading time by 12%. In Upgrade Slot 2, I've chosen to have a Gunfire Control System Modification 1, which increases my maximum firing range by 16%. Carefully choosing which upgrades you decide to invest in, along with how you spend your commander points, will allow you to customize your ship to be able to get the advantage on the battlefield. But that about wraps it up. Let's get out on the high seas and shoot some ships. So here we go. I'm on the seas in the Phoenix as the Tier 4 American cruiser. It gets 10 152mm guns, which is less guns than the St. Louis gets, which is a whole tier below it. So that might be confusing you right off the bat. But the Phoenix also gets torpedoes, and it's so much more maneuverable than the St. Louis is, and its guns fire a very long distance indeed. As we can see here, we're trying to loop in some shots on the Wyoming there. Our first series of shells do hit the target. We hit twice. And we're looping in some shots while keeping an eye out what's going to go on towards the south of the battle. We're able to fire 13 kilometers down onto that Wyoming there, and cruisers have such an amazing rate of fire that they do put in the shots quickly. And the shell travel time is so long in World of Warships that you didn't even see that we actually set the Wyoming on fire there, just as we left the view of his ship. We also hit the New Mexico. We set him on fire once, and then he instantly put the fire off. Yet we set him on fire again. So his ship should be burning down now nicely. There we go, we see it light right up. And from these kind of distances, 11 kilometers, I do feel very comfortable going up against a Tier 6 battleship this is. This battleship is 2 tiers higher than us. He's got 52,000 health. But if we use some of our mobility, as well as a fantastic high rate of fire, whoa, those ones went just over the top of our ship, then we can rip apart even battleships that are 2 tiers higher than us very quickly. We can see that while our high explosive rounds aren't doing amazing amounts of damage, we have lit him up like a bonfire right now, and his hit points are ticking down very quickly indeed. High explosive shells are the way to go when you're shooting at battleships with 152mm guns like the Phoenix has. One of the most important things you can do, however, is to make sure that you don't sail in a straight line like this. The only reason why I'm sailing in a straight line now is because he's turning his ship around. If I felt like he was a massive threat to me, focused on me aiming his guns, then I would be making serpentine maneuvers through the ocean to try and avoid as much of the damage from him as I can. Luckily, however, we've hit this guy probably about 44 times. And slowly but surely, his ship is burning to the bottom of the ocean. We take only light damage from him there. He did probably about 2,000 damage to us. And I think we must have done probably about 30,000 to him. We do have a whole host of ships behind us that might have been hitting him as well. But we won't find that out until we take a look at the post-game stats. So now we have a Congo to deal with. That's a very fast Tier 5, I believe. Yes, Tier 5 Japanese battleship. Uh-oh. That series of shells look like they're coming in to get us. Oh, thank goodness he's firing at the other Congo in front of us. We don't have to worry about him. So we don't want to get up into a straight-up fight with the Congo. We want to keep harassing him, but we also don't want to get nailed by his guns. So we're going to pull back a little bit, realign our ship up, and then hopefully engage him when he reaches the other side of the island. Now, this map that we're playing is called Two Brothers. I guess it's called Two Brothers because of the 2 gigantic mountains in the center of it. So we're just waiting until we can spot the Congo again. And perhaps we can fire some shells over this mountain. Oh, no, not quite over. Maybe the next shell will go over. Nearly. We don't fire a whole salvo. We want to just fire a few testing shots. Now, this is one of the issues. You see that because we can no longer see him and we're no longer locking on him, the game doesn't get the trajectory of the shells quite right. That makes it hard to loop over mountains. You can only loop over a mountain if you can see the other target. And finally, we start to connect with the Congo, but we only do 700 damage. 363 with a couple more hits. Those aren't the results that we're looking for. We have a quick look to see that we're not about to crash into the Wyoming on our team in front of us, but finally we set the Congo on fire. Worried that the Congo might be about to attack us, and we don't want to get within his secondaries, as he was at one point charging directly at us. We're going to distance ourselves from the Congo. We can see that a whole host of torpedoes are going towards his ship, dropped by the torpedo planes from the carrier that's sitting all the way back to the north. If you're watching this World of Warships for the first time, you might be interested to know that there are carriers in this game that use aircraft to take out their opponents. They can sit all the way at the back, and then they use an RTS view, a bit like this, to control their ships and to set them on targets. We hit the Congo 15 times and nearly avoid his return fire. Only a single shell hitting us. And there you go, another battleship taken out that's a whole tier higher than our vessel. Even though we've taken out a ship, hit 101 shells, set 7 vessels on fire, we are still neck and neck with the enemy team. We have got 2 bases locked down. We have the A cap and they have the C cap, and they have the B and the D. For all we know right now, their vessels are navigating around the west of the westernmost brother and putting pressure on our C cap, and there they are. However, we're going to take advantage of firing at this Myogi, who seems to have stopped. We can see that I'm giving far too much lead here. I think he's stopping his ship. He probably doesn't want to sail into the host of battleships and cruisers that are coming along the southeast corridor. So from here, he is pretty much a sitting duck. We do get fired at from a Cleveland over here. That is not a ship that you want to have firing at you. That is a Tier 6 American cruiser. It is absolutely vicious. The Myogi manages to hit us a little bit, doing about 4,000 damage and taking out our torpedo tubes, but those don't really matter. And we start to set him on fire with our high explosive shells. He's just sitting in the water, not quite knowing what he needs to do right now. And finally, he decides that he needs to turn his ship and sail away from the ensuing enemies that are coming from the east. However, it might be too little, too late. We've already removed a quarter of his hit points. And finally, I realize that there's a Clemson, an American Tier 4 destroyer, right in front of me. He's disappeared behind a smoke cloud, but that still doesn't mean that we can't hit him. We hit him 3 times with those shells, and we did a critical damage to him. That suggests to me that we either knocked out one of his guns, or more likely, took out his rudder or his engine, which would have slowed him down massively. I decide to fire a few torpedoes off, as we can see there, to try and force him to turn into us. He appears. He's now 5 kilometers away from us, and we sail directly towards him, doing more critical damage to his ship. This is not a good position for the Clemson. We can see our torpedoes there sailing straight towards the target, but it looks like he's going to manage to evade them. Now he sets us on fire, that cheeky bugger. And there, his torpedoes. Oh gosh. Luckily we turned away from the coast and we avoid them. We absolutely whiff a whole series of shells. And I'm not putting out the fire right now because I was worried that I was going to get set on fire again. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh gosh. Quick, quick, quick. Squeaky bum time. Turn the ship. Hard turn the ship. Yes! Looks like we're narrowly going to avoid the Clemson's torpedoes. That's how you get one of the achievements to be able to get I'm not sure if it does give a signal, but it's definitely achievement. Killing somebody from the grave.
Our victory is in sight.
So now, having dealt with the Clemson, we have to deal with the Cleveland. That's our big brother. It's got turrets, which enable it to fire all of its 152mm main guns pretty much wherever it is. Luckily, however, we're starting to hit some of our high explosive shells, and this is where you start to see some of the movements that you have to use in your Phoenix to evade the shells. You have to drive in a serpentine way to make it hard for the enemies to hit you. The worst thing that you can do in World of Warships is sail in a straight line. And the second worst thing that you can do is crash into an island like this Cleveland here. We've started to load some AP shells and we're going to town on him. Did you see the Citadel hit that we put into him for over 3,000 damage with a single shell? Unfortunately, not all of them are hitting his Citadel, and we can see that we're hitting the front of his ship for only 310. I'm not aiming the shells correctly. You see they're hitting the front. I need to give more, so to say, lead from behind him and hit the center of his ship. That's more like it. There you go, 1,600 damage with one of the shells. And this plunging fire should start to put pressure on his Citadel. I'm under so much pressure trying to avoid his shells with my sailing that I'm not aiming my shells with super precision right now. Nevertheless, 1,300 damage there. The Cleveland is running out of health fast as he has been set on fire. Another 1,333 damage. And hopefully we can line ourselves up to nail him as he makes the pass between these two islands. Are we going to hit him? Oh yes, what a leading shot there. Taking out a Tier 6 cruiser on the enemy team. And that's it. We win the battle. So what a game for the Phoenix. We were rewarded with nearly 220,000 credits, 4,152 experience, and we get a whopping 208 free experience as well with that victory. We hit 180 shells, 7 crits, 3 kills, 10 fires including a citadel hit, and we capped 1 base single-handedly and assisted in the capture of another base. And with that number of hits and kills, we finish on top of our team, 1,845 base experience points. That's over an extra half what a tier 6 Aoba was able to do next to me. I was really happy with this game considering the matchmaking was pretty much as bad as it could be with tier 6 battleships and cruisers on the enemy team, and we didn't hold any punches from them, ended up sinking them. The total damage that we did this game was 15,000 with those 32 AP shell hits. One of the main mechanics that you need to understand in World of Warships, and that is still a bit of a mystery to me, is the difference between high explosive and AP shells and when to use them. As a rule of thumb, if you're engaging similar class vessels, you should fire armor-piercing ammunition. And that's because the ships were designed with the intent of engaging similar class vessels. And the importance of that is the penetration mechanics in World of Warships are not as simple as World of Tanks. You don't want to over-penetrate the target. What you want to happen is for your shell to penetrate one side of the ship and not have so much penetration that it's going to go out through the other side as well, as that will only result in minimal damage. What you want to happen is for your shell to go in through one side and then effectively bounce around on the inside, causing a massive internal damage. And so if you fire 152mm armor-piercing shells in the Phoenix, at most battleships, it's simply not going to go through their armor. And so you have to fire high explosive shells to do consistent damage and also to damage their modules and, more importantly, set them on fire. During this game, we hit 150 high explosive shells, doing 46,000 damage. And that doesn't sound like a lot, does it? I guess that's 300 damage per shell. But what we also need to take into account that we set ships on fire 10 times. And when you set battleships on fire and they've already used their damage consumable, that means that they burn like a bonfire. We did nearly 26,000 fire damage that game, actually making the 300 initial damage we did with each of the high explosive hits up to about the 500 damage mark, including the fires. And that's not taking into account the fact that we also damaged the enemy's modules and prevented them from using them, possibly firing it at us. However, look at the difference between the high explosive and the armor-piercing damage per shell here. We only fired 32 armor-piercing shells here at the Cleveland at the end, and they did 15,000 damage. That's nearly 500 damage per shell, even without the fire, showing you that careful consideration of when to use high explosive and armor-piercing shells really is the key to outgunning your opponents currently in World of Warships. So for example, if you're just about to start in the game, the first ship that you will play if you choose an American ship will be the Erie. Now all of the American ships from Tier 1 right up until Tier 6 in the Cleveland all use 152mm guns. And so that means that the armor-piercing shells in the Erie are actually very efficient indeed. And so if you play in the Erie, you should definitely fire armor-piercing rounds at your opponents. And you will get citadel hit after citadel hit after citadel hit in your Tier 1 games, especially if you're shooting at the Japanese Tier 1, the Hashidate, which is very lightly armored indeed. The Hashidate, unlike the Erie, gets 120mm guns, which if you fire armor-piercing rounds at an Erie with the Hashidate, you're most likely going to bounce most of your shots. I really feel like this feature is the most confusing at the moment for a new player. And I still don't understand why Wargaming don't just give us the armor-piercing values and, like they used to, the ship armor values. I guess because they feel like it's too confusing for the user. Or maybe it's because they don't want everyone just going around getting citadel hits on each other. They want people to learn what guns work effectively against what ships and with what ammo types to be able to rule the seas like a lot of you lust after. And so that's pretty much everything I've been able to find out so far about the open beta. I thoroughly recommend you guys go and try this out. You've got nothing to lose, it's free, and if you've got a premium account, then that will help you to accelerate your progress in here anyway. And if this is your first time checking out the channel, definitely hang around. I've got more World of Warships content coming right up for you. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider giving it a like down below. It really helps the channel out. And if you want to see a review of the next ship that I really want, the Tier 6 American cruiser, the Cleveland, then click right up there and you can go through to some awesome gameplay. And let me know in the comments down below what you think so far of World of Warships. I know that 90% of you guys out there will most likely have played World of Tanks at least at one time. Do you find World of Warships as enthralling as World of Tanks? Do you find it as exciting as World of Tanks? Does it make you want to get in there and play and grind up the tech tree? And if not, let me know what's wrong with the game. How would you improve it? Remember, it's still in open beta. It's not even released yet. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.